Many years ago, I had a friend, a very good friend, someone who I even considered to be my best friend. And it is not too long ago, maybe early last week, that I had an insight into why my friendship with this person eventually did not work out, and the reason why I walked away from the friendship. We shared a circle of friends, and in the circle of friends, I had known her first, and then introduced her to this, to one friend, and then that friend had another friend. So she was also introduced to that other friend, and then another friend had another friend, and then, and then we became a circle of friends. That interconnectedness happened between us. And so she came into the circle because she knew me, and then got to know other people as well. I also got to know other people through other people in the circle. But what happened is that whenever there would be points of contention, of disagreement between me and someone else in the friendship circle, and she knew that person was wrong, and she knew that I was absolutely correct in the instance, she would not stand up for me. And for many years, I have known that and have named that, oh, she would not stand up for me. She would not speak up for me. She would not take up for me. But then God showed me something different. He showed me that every time that I would have a point of disagreement with someone else in the circle, and I would call on her to be a witness, to say, hey, this is what's happening between me and so. What are your thoughts? Am I wrong in this picture? What's going on? What do you think is going on? And she would know I'm correct. But she would come and say, I don't want to get in the middle of it. And she would know that the other person was completely wrong. And I can think of many instances where that happened to me, where she left me hanging. But what God revealed to me last week is that every time that she left you hanging, and it usually happened, this very sense of contentions happening, and then calling on her to be my support, it would usually happen with the same person. And she would always say, I don't want to get in the middle of y'all. I don't want to get in the middle of it. I don't want to keep me out of it. God showed me that every time that she did that, she actually was making a statement. And the statement was that over time, she had become more friends with the other person that I was in contention with than with me, that she was friends with me anymore. And for me, that was the light bulb moment, that every time she didn't take up for me, every time she didn't back me up when she knew I was absolutely correct, in those instances where I would be having a point of disagreement and contention and calling for her support and bringing her into the conversation for support, not to be belligerent or to gang up on the other person, but to say, hey, am I being unreasonable here? And say, let's bring a third voice. Every time that she chose to not get involved, God said to me, she was ultimately stating where her loyalties lay, and they were not with me. They were with the other person who she wouldn't come against. And it really just gave me such a sense of closure. I don't know if I was walking around lamenting a sense of, I want to have closure, with this particular friend. But when God showed me this, it finally bottom lined it for me that it's true. Every time that she wouldn't stand up for me, she chose the other person. And it bottom lined it so much so because whenever people wronged her, I stood in the gap for her. I stood up for her, and I would not let anyone just do her wrong. Because for me, that was acting out my allegiances, acting out my loyalty to her. But when she was put in similar positions, she didn't move in the same direction. She didn't defend me. She didn't stand up for me. She didn't have my back. I would land on my back on the floor and hurt my back. She wouldn't have my back. She was always straddling on the fence. What God showed me last week, bottom lined it for me that, oh, every time that she didn't stand up for me with this particular person, she was actually making a statement and saying, I'm actually at this point and over time have become more friends with this person and have more in common with this person that you're arguing with than I do with you anymore. And I had never read those scenarios like that. I just always felt like, damn, she didn't have my back. She was making a very clear statement about who her friend was and who she was pledging her allegiances to in those moments. And it wasn't me. It was the other person. I realized that I was friends with someone who was non-committal to the friendship, to the coming together of two people and becoming friends and building trust and building lifelong ways of interacting that hold the friendship for a long time.